Well, my guess and my hope is that you are doing something fun on this Saturday morning or Saturday afternoon now that it is. So a lot of different delays having moved into a new place, but I think I finally have everything squared away. So I actually have just, what a week it's been on so many different levels. And now they're already getting ready for the San Francisco 49ers. I thought I would just break down I just have three plays that I'm going to break down today. But before I do that, I have three words for you that I never thought I would say connected with the NFL. And those three words are Eminem, Dr. Dre. That's it. Those are the three words, man. Eminem, Dr. Dre. I mean, come on, how could you not get excited about that? I mean, this is one of the biggest things in a long time. People that know me know that I'm a huge Eminem fan, huge Dre fan. Back in college, me and my buddies, we would listen to all those groups from NWA through middle school, high school when they were getting going, and then to college as they started to do their own thing, but all those different groups back then. So as I say many times, I try to remain the hippest grandpa in America. For those of you who are just starting to see me for the first time, yes, I am a grandpa. But at the same time, I try to stay hip to today's culture, hip to today's things. Fortunately, with 5 kids and a couple grandkids, they do a great job of keeping me there. The other thing that just came in that sold out really quickly, but fortunately my son, Luke, who also goes by Lumar, Lumar Productions, because of the great music and stuff that he produces, we had a chance back in August to go with my son-in-law out to a Seahawks practice. And then afterwards, we stopped by the pro shop and we saw that there were some shoes that were going to be coming out. So just the other day, the new Seahawks Pegasus came in, and like I said, they had sold out in about an hour. So we were lucky to snag a couple pair of these great shoes. I've never been one to really jump into kind of the fashion market of tennis shoes, but at the same time, I think if you're just excited about football or the 12s, you just want to be part of something fun. Hey, you know what? Why the heck not? At nearly 50 years old, if they say 50 is the new 30 or the new 20. To me, 50's 50, and that's what it is. So with that, I mean, Eminem and Dr. Dre doing their thing, or just Dre as he likes to be known, the shoes. But we still have a team that's struggling a little bit. The thing is, I don't see us losing 3 games in a row. I love to watch, anytime I watch people that are talking about the prognostication of a game and they see what the spread is or something like that. And then it's like, I don't think the Seahawks are going to, they're not going to get it or what have you. It's like, well, okay, you complain that people don't support someone as a 12, but then at the same time, if they choose against them, does that not make them a 12? No, I don't think so. But that's just when you're talking spreads and those type of things. So with that, I'm going to get into the 3 plays that are a continuation from the other night. The other night, I kind of ripped through some plays pretty quickly, but had some Telestration stuff and had the all 22 that came out late. So we're going to jump into these 3 plays. And then instead of doing my shows on Tuesday, because they just announced that the all 22 isn't going to come out with every single team at the exact same time. Last year, it always came out, the whole group came out at the same time. This year, that's kind of a rollout. So Seattle was one of the last teams to, the Seattle-Minnesota game, that was one of the last ones to come out. So I'm going to move my shows to Wednesday nights at 7 o'clock. I know that doesn't help people in the Central, Mountain, and East Coast time zones, but at the same time, I think people will catch this on replay. So with that, I'm going to bounce right into the first play that we'll get going on here with. And the first one, I actually have a special teams play, I have an offensive play, and I have a defensive play. So this will be a short episode because it's Saturday, things to do, want to go, hang out and have some fun with the family and things like that. So, but here's the first one, and it has to do with Nick Valor. He's our special teams captain, and Nick LeBeau and I from Seattle Sports Talk do a weekly show where we talk about special teams. But I just felt like this was something, I wanted to definitely show. We'll show it on our show as well. But this is something that's just really, really special. And I'll make sure I keep an eye on myself to make sure I'm not blocking anything here. But what I really think is special, and there's Nick, he's playing what would be basically the right guard position, but you always think of special teams from an offense and defensive standpoint. And what I mean by that, and I'll only say this the first couple of times I talk about it, when you're on kickoff team or you are on, let's say, spread punt, you're putting defensive-minded positions in those spots. So even though there's the snapper and guards and tackles and wings, really when you're forming out the depth chart, you're forming it out from a standpoint of snapper, and then linebacker on the two guard positions, and linebacker type in the two tackle positions. And then you're kind of see your flyers and your wings more like your secondary, right? Kind of your strong safety, free safety types would be the wings, and your corners are the guys that are the flyers. Because, wide receivers don't necessarily want to run down there and make tackles. So you may wonder, gosh, why don't I see, our wide receivers out there? Well, that's why. You see it from a defensive standpoint. And then then you have a personal protector that's usually a defensive player, then your punter. So same thing with kickoff. When you kick off, you have linebackers kind of in those three middle positions to the left of the kicker, which are L3, L4, L5, R3, R4, R5. And then L1 and L2 and R1 and R2, those are, again, secondary guys. So, and then you flop it when you're doing kickoff return and punt return, which I'll talk about some other day. Those become offensive-minded scheming type of deals. So when you get to this situation here, there's a reason why Nick Bellore he's a 10-year veteran in the NFL. A lot of people think that he's only just played with the Seahawks for a couple of years, but he's a 10-year journeyman. In the last couple of years, he played for us, and he was a Pro Bowler last year. He was third in the NFL in special teams tackles, ironically finishing behind a certain Cody Barton, a teammate. So I love that you watch this guy play, it is pretty unbelievable what he does. So here he is, he's playing technically he's playing the right guard position on spread punt. But think of it more from a standpoint of these four guys here are really kind of linebacker types, because once they start running, you want them to have defensive-minded principles here. And then these guys are the flyers, secondary types that you want them to be quick scat back guys that can get down there and do their thing, forcing the play whichever direction they go. So now as the play develops, what you're going to see take place is Nick's going to get going here. There we go. Oh, went a little too far here. Once the ball gets snapped, you're going to see how quickly he gets a double protection block here. So there's two guys, and you always protect your inside out. So the most important thing on punt, and the same rule applies to PATs and field goals, you're protecting the inside gaps. So on spread punt, sometimes you'll see guys pointing and they're counting 1, 2, 3, 4, and 1, 2, 3, 4. Basically, that right guard position, this right guard right here, he's making sure he has the number one guy to the inside, then the right tackle, so to speak, has the number 2, and so on and so forth. And if nobody's there, then you try to stay square. Rarely do you go outside unless there's definitely no rush. And the reason you don't want to do that is all of a sudden a late developing, rush comes up in that A gap, the two gaps that are to the left of the center, which is how the defensive terms. The offense usually term it through numbers. Defense looks at it A, B, C, D to the left, A, B, C, D to the right. So the A gaps are those gaps to the left and right and center. Well, here Bellore doesn't have anybody on his inside. So he gets a little push off here. I know he's got an eye here. You definitely don't want to necessarily square yourself, but he's such a veteran that's not as big of a deal. And I'm sorry, I had a reverse there. He was on the other side. So he goes rushing through. Yes, he comes down there, and you'll see right here. He gets the block, and they get a little flop around here. Then he gets by. So that's the center is coming to help get the double team. Nick's going to squeeze around and get by. So it's actually the center that turned. My bad on that one. The center that had turned, which allows for a pretty big gap. And this happened, Nick LeBeau and I talked about this 2 weeks ago, opening up those gaps. But let's forget that for a second. So now Nick's on his way. Now here's what I love. At the 10-yard mark, either way, old track coach Jimmy coming out, you want to be flying down there, but then you want your spacing to be what we term creating an umbrella. And by creating an umbrella, what you're trying to do is have that first guy down. So typically the snapper's staying back. In high school and college, a lot of times that snapper's a quick guy that can get out of there. NFL, snapper's just the best guy that can do it. And Bill Belichick did a great soliloquy last week for about 10 minutes. A reporter asked him about the snapper, and the deep snapper. He went on this awesome conversation about it. But basically you want them to fan out, get about 5 yards apart by the time they get to 10 yards, sprint down, get themselves gathered to the return guy, and then umbrella it in. But the key is you must settle your feet, and you must start that about 10 yards from the punt return. Everybody must do that. So as Nick's running down the field here, what you're going to see is he gets down to about the 45-yard line, and it's at that point that he's going to settle his feet. So here he's at the 45. He started to throttle down because at the 40, when he's 10 yards away roughly, he wants to be able to see where is that punt returner going? What direction is he going? The problem you see with so many guys when they run down the field is they get into the Olay tackling position, which is typically run right by a guy and have him run past you. And you just don't want that to happen. So while he's the first one coming down here, as he gets down to within 10 yards, and I have it drawn at 15 because he's still settling his feet. As he settles his feet, he's going to get within 10 yards of the runner. That's what you want to do. Not be flying full speed down to 5 yards within the punt return guy, and he just runs right by it. But the best part of this, and again, something that people just don't really pick up on, is what an incredible athlete he is in terms of the angles he takes after the play that develops itself from the punt return standpoint. So he recognizes that the punt returner's got the ball. He's going to settle his feet, and you can see he's within roughly 10 yards of the punt returner. Punt returner is now going this direction. It does him no good to continue to run here. This flyer is doing his job of containing it to the inside. You can see we've got an umbrella developing here. The umbrella taking place, you want to squeeze him. But if a guy's quick, guys are getting blocked, all those type of things, I just want you to watch what he does right here, the different angles that he takes to basically meet the punt returner over here. You can see how he just sorts his way right through it and just makes a fantastic open field tackle. And it is open field because nobody's blocking him. He's got to fly to the guy. It's not directly, traditional open field. But the way he just gets down there and makes this play is just fantastic. The way he sees it, the way he settles his feet, then the way he goes lateral, sorts his way through it, makes a great tackle there. If he doesn't do it, there's other guys there, so maybe this tackle, maybe this play only goes 2 or 3 more yards. I mean, they definitely get more yardage on it. But the good part is, or the negative part could be, if he doesn't do that, maybe that return goes to the house, right? If they don't get the right, the right block, the right piece out there, the right tackle. So our punter does a good job there. And this is the last piece I'll say on it. As they're going down, this is kind of the whole piece is our special teams and our punt team does a pretty decent job. It's back here is where I have the most concerns. We have a lot of breakdowns back here, which I'm not going to get into. This is more of a plus on Nick and what he is able to do. But we oftentimes are opening up a lot of gaps. Personal protectors. People often wonder what, personal protector just makes the snap call, does the cadence and the snap goes on its way. No. Typically, this personal protector is talking to the guys and looking at what they're doing, making sure everybody's covered. And then once it's ready, the punter typically will just start flashing his hands after the personal protector has made the call. So the personal protector makes the protections, he's talking, everything else. He might give a ready call, but that snap is not done until the snapper can see that the punter has got his hands ready and open and flash ready to go, and the personal protector sits ready. There's not really on a hut type of deal. Then that ball snapped. Personal protector's job is always to check inside out. So his first step, number one, should always be forward. And I can't tell you how many times I've gone and watched other teams practice, watched younger teams practice, and the personal protector immediately will step back because he sees the other front 5 guys start to step back, and then he gets the ball right in his rear end. So definitely don't want to do that. So what you see here, do a nice job of is personal protector, as the ball's going by, nice step forward to the inside, making sure nobody's threatening that A gap, and then his job is to look B gap to C gap. Make sure nobody's coming there. Got to help double, that's fine. And with the rule of thumb we always say is that if a punt or a PAT gets blocked, that's on the punter and the snapper in the punting game. But in the field goal and PAT game, that's the snapper, the holder, and the kicker, right? So snapper, holder, kicker, and in punting game, it's the snapper and the punter. If it gets blocked from the outside, your job for the front 5 and the front 7 is cover the A gap, the B gap, the C gap. Not worried about these D gaps on the outside. That's on the speed of the football. So just decent job here. My only concern would be this open A gap, but we did have it protected there. And then Valor does a great job down here getting the turn. Okay, good block. And it's just a nice job by really all the way around of our guys doing what they need to do here. This is the fight. It's so hard when you're getting double teamed by dudes and everything, but he does a great job of forcing the play back in, not letting them get to the curve, right? You just don't want dudes getting to the curve because then all of a sudden I-5 opens up and they're gone. So cut that curve back, guys force it in. Now you're in your linebacker, basically inside type linebacker comes and makes the play. So really nice job there on that one. I really, really liked how that play took place. All right, so let's look at the second play here. Second play was a bootleg that took place earlier in the game. And what I really liked about it was the fact that we had done some great running early on in the game. I think Carson had about 70 yards in the first half. So when you develop the running game, which is the West Coast offense, a couple of things. First off, you have to develop the running game, but the West Coast offense it's based on a good, solid passing game first. It's actually a pass-first offense. It's short passing game, and it's bootleg based off of the solid running game. Quick hitters, those type of things that take place. Well, when you get the quick hitters going with Russ, and then the running game gets going, the next phase becomes the bootleg. That's the scheme that you want to bring in, is the bootleg. And the concept here is a very, very basic, traditional bootleg that you're going to see, which is basically play action going into the hole, basically a dive play, we can call it. Dive play going in, and we've got motion takes place beforehand, and then these are basically the simple routes. You just got to clear out, you got a simple hook back here, and then you got a backside drag. Now, the nice thing on it, and this could be play action or bootleg type of plays, you're going to get a pull from the left guard, and what that does is that really sucks up the linebackers. And if you watched me the other night, I talked about how our linebackers get drawn in because you see the flow of the offensive lineman, and you're taught from Little League football on to read the guards. You must read the guards. So when linebackers are reading the guards, and the first thing they see, if they're really, truly reading the guards, they will see the guard's first step. And this one, if that guard's first step is to his right, then immediately, and you can see they shifted the last second because the linebacker came up, but as this starts to go to the right, notice how this guard's pulling, and his head is looking right at him. He's looking right at this guard, so he sees this pulling. This guy's looking this direction. They're always looking here. They look through the line, then to the backfield. Well, they see a guard coming, so that's got to be a handoff. It's got to be some sort of a long trap play, deep counter play. If there's somebody, they can't tell necessarily that the backside tackle's pulling or what have you, but it definitely looks like it's going to be something here to the backside. Now, I'm going to let the play just run, and then I'll come back and show you a couple of neat things that take place during the play. This is kind of the opportunistic day since we're playing coming up real quickly tomorrow. Okay, nice play. Man, he's had a couple of nice stiff arms, which I really like. So coming back to what we had here at the beginning is that, again, we have the motion that goes through, and then all of a sudden we're going to have that backside guard that's going to come across. And so it's really going to look like that we're running something to the far side. Now, a couple things of emphasis on both good and bad. From a personal standpoint, again, I'm not coaching them, but I coached the fly sweep for a good 10 plus years. Now it's called jet motion, but it was originally fly sweep with Mark Speckman. Then it went to Steve Spurrier, who brought it to the Division I level, and he was running at Florida. And then I was able to meet Mark Speckman, who's a coach with no arms, phenomenal dude. I mean, phenomenal coach. So they call it the fly sweep. They didn't think it was going to work, and then when it started to work, they said, "Well, we can't name it after somebody who invented it in high school, so we'll call it the jet sweep." Something that we just don't seem to be doing quite yet is getting the jet sweep to really look like we're giving him the ball. It's just kind of more of a delayed jet sweep. It's a motion, and what you want jet and fly, because you might hear it the other way. In fact, it was funny. Dave Wyman, who calls the games in the preseason, he was only calling this fly motion. He never referred to it as jet. So I'll refer to it as both from time to time, just for the old school dudes that are out there. But again, right now, you can see he's pretending he's getting the ball, right? I mean, there's no reason for him to tuck, but the timing is brutal. I mean, we're definitely far enough into the season. If this was preseason game number 1, I'd say, you know what? Russ wants to make sure that we're getting the backside protection. And it's such a new play, and man, we're moving this guard, and maybe he's uncertain. Nobody's biting on this fate. The only thing they're going to bite on is this left guard. So that definitely is something that I would be saying, hey, this snap needs to take place right here. Basically, the time that I have this play starting, which he started out over here. That ball should be snapped right now so that as Russell's spinning, it looks like he may have given him the ball. Russ should already be back turned. And we refer to it as cowboy magician, right? So when quarterback is facing the line of scrimmage, and this is my own phrase. This is my one. I don't claim a whole lot of things, but this is one that I've talked about when I do quarterback clinics with Glazier and some of those other ones that when they come up to Seattle. Quarterbacks are cowboys, or they're cowboys when they're facing the line of scrimmage. You want to just be sauntering up there, nice and easy, the old John Wayne style. And then when they turn their back, they're magicians, right? Doing play action, doing the bootleg, all that other stuff. Well, the Cowboy magician flow here, it's just not very solid. So I really hope that's something that we can fix. And that's something as a fan that you definitely can watch for. I mean, that's an easy thing. It's not like trying to look at line protection, having not coached or not been around offensive line or what have you. Like, that's hard because as a fan, you want to just watch the game, watch running backs, watch the receivers. But this is something that as a fan you could definitely pick up on and go, man, we should be faking that fly action, because that's really what you want, is to draw this linebacker up, and you're trying to get this defensive end to jump up with it. Because what the guys upstairs as coaches are looking at is if one of those players can jump that, then that's going to open up something inside. So there's three things you're looking for: the fly sweep action, and then you're looking at who's biting on this action. And right now it's not too bad, right? You've got this backer who's out here, but both these backers really came because of this backside guard coming out. He respected it a little bit, but I wouldn't say he's biting on Tyler Lockett, right? If he was biting, he would be flying. And Lockett does a good job with the bubble. So with this jet motion, it's fake the sweep or get the handoff, and then you immediately take a jab step to your right, kind of 45-degree angle, and you bubble it out in case he's getting the ball, just so you'll notice down the road. Running back, so good play fakes by the backs, but the timing of such is just like, doesn't look good on A and doesn't look good on B, meaning the first one and the second one. Like I would even argue that this play action is not that solid. There's just not confidence. And again, I said on the last show, that's Russ hearing ghosts. When you start getting sacked, you're getting beat up. For years it's taking place. Again, sometimes it's him, sometimes it's the line. You start feeling the presence of ghosts in the background. Meaning, and those ghosts, it's not like the ghosts that fly around on Halloween. I mean, these are 300-pound, 6'4" ghosts that are going to crush you. So you start doing things a little bit quicker. I mean, imagine how great this play would be if this play action was solid. Like, you don't put the ball in their hands, but you just spin and it looks like you've given it to them because you can't see. And then here, if it's the old Boomer Esiason to Peyton Manning, those guys that were phenomenal to play fakes, you want that ball to look like it's gone to the far hip pocket. That's the exchange. So when you're doing something like that with a ball fake, basically what you're trying to do is you want to extend that ball out and you're reaching for the far hip pocket of the running back. That way, if you actually do hand it off to them, as they're running by that next step, the ball actually comes right into their breadbasket, right into their stomach. But if you don't give it to them, it still has that look that you're giving it to them. So you give it to the far hip pocket and then you pull it back out. And you can do that from 3 yards away, but still the perception is, oh, he's giving him the ball. And then you magician up and you pull it back to the backside there. We don't get that, but it's still enough. So imagine how wide open this would be if that hadn't happened. But just like I talked about range on the show the other night, there's tons of range that's taking place here with these guys. I mean, look at all this. A lot of range out there. Range like cattle range. A lot of space to be able to make that pass, and that's just awesome to see. So nice play there. Hopefully we'll get to see a little bit more of that for sure. But really like how it developed. So we'll watch it one last time. Again, easy concept. We have a lot of these bootleg plays, and they work when you are not in a desperation situation. I love that you pull the guard and you have an influence there. So all those things are really, really solid. So before I jump on to the last play, and I'm sorry, let me take it. I promised you I'd let you see it one more time. So let me take it back just a little bit. I'll get the timing down. I'm still just adjusting to the new place, getting the new stuff set up, and I'll be by the next show. It'll all be nice and smooth. So again, there's your play. Guard makes a nice pull, makes it look like. And in fact, I missed one thing that I wanted to point out. Watch the running back. If you just watch the running back on this play, if I was with my players, years ago, I'd say, hey, we're scouting this team, or watch what happens with this running back. You know that you've done your job if you get tackled. Like that's the whole point. When you're running a fake, you need to look like you're carrying the ball and get tackled by somebody. That's the greatest block you can have on a play fake. Well, he definitely does his job. When he comes running through here, watch who comes and makes the tackle when he could be crushing Russ, right? That safety that came down on the blitz right here, he comes in hard and he ends up tackling the running back. He ends up going after him, tackling him. So pretty good when that happens. All right, before I go to the last play, let me see. I got Life and Sports Talk with Jake. What's up, Coach? The secondary again is going to be tested. Yeah, there's no doubt about it, man. That's actually ironic that you say that. It leads me right into the final play I'm going to show, Life in Sports Talk with Jake, which is a mouthful, but I love the name. Yeah, lots of stuff going on with the secondary, and I think the biggest concern there is for me as a head coach, and I love the psychology of the game. Like I was just a big believer that the psychology of the game is so much of what a head coach has to deal with, let alone position coaches and everything else. And there's a lot of things that take place, right? Like you had a coach that wasn't there last weekend that deals with some of their personal stuff and things like that I won't dive into, other than to say, if you're at the NFL level, if one of your coaches is not there on the sideline, whether it's due to coronavirus protocols or anything like that, I mean, that's going to impact things. But what you just don't want to have is guys getting on each other and starting to disrespect each other when they're all making mistakes, right? So let's look at this final play that I know is a play that really, really, I think it frustrated people the other day. That let me get it back here. So here's the play itself. Okay, this is the play that they scored the touchdown on. Everybody was so frustrated that our linebacker didn't stay with him and all these other things. So let me tell you a couple things about that. First off, you have a linebacker who's facing a tight end. Now, I've said for years a couple things. Number one, the tight end is the most underrated position in all of sports. All of sports. I will battle that to the end of time. You can come to me with any position in any sport, and I will tell you and give you all the facts of why the tight end is the most underrated position in all of sports. It's why every single year but one, we ended up having, and I'm very careful with any accolade type thing. So to me, this is not about me. This is about the players that I was fortunate enough to coach and the offenses that we ran. Every year but one, we had the all-league tight end. And to me, that was I love going to watch clinics with tight ends. I love going to watch college practices at the University of Washington or Washington State University, the local schools or Central, some of those, the tight ends. And then anytime I go to a Seahawks practice, man, that's the first group I wanted to watch was the tight ends to see what type of drills they were doing, what type of schemes they were running, those type of things. Because you get a tight end, you're always going to create a mismatch. Because a tight end versus a linebacker, well, he's probably going to beat him with the speed and probably beat him with some height. And then if you get a tight end with a DB, well, he's definitely going to beat him with height, more likely, and he's going to beat him with the physical side. Yes, the DB is going to be quicker, but there's a reason why the last 10 years, and definitely the last 5 years, but you go to Tony Gonzalez was really kind of the guy who brought it back. It used to be Kellen Winslow, not the young one, but Kellen Winslow from the San Diego Chargers back in the 80s. He was the guy that when Eric Coryell moved him around and started saying, hey, we don't need to just play him at the tight end position. We're going to throw him the ball, number one, but we're going to move him into some different spots. And they had Dan Fouts and some of those guys. But then kind of disappeared for a while. Still at the tight end, but it was like, yeah, just block. We'll throw it to you a couple token times. And then here comes this guy, Tony Gonzalez, out of the University of California, who's a hoopster and could dunk and all that other stuff. Well, he becomes a Hall of Famer. And then next thing you know, Gronk and all these other guys start coming out. And now look at who is it just in our own division. Kelsey and Kittle. We got two of the best dudes ever that are playing in our division. Well, that also means there's a lot of film on how those tight ends have played against the Seattle Seahawks, right? So if I'm playing the Seahawks as an offensive coordinator, first thing I'm doing with one of the younger coaches is say, hey, man, find everything that teams have done with regards to those guys. And I know I said my bad, and I said Kelsey's not he's not in our division, but in terms of guys that are playing in the NFL that we've seen. We see them all the time. How are the guys that are in our division, though, like a Kittle, how do the San Francisco 49ers use a guy like that to play against us? So that's what I'd be focusing on. So what do we end up getting here? You end up getting a tight end who's flexed out, and this is like the Super Bowl. Okay, last piece, and then we'll do a little telestration. Chef Jack Attack. Look who showed up to the party. My buddy from New York, man, Chef Jack Attack. We got to catch up, my friend. It's been a long time. So I always get amped. I always get amped when Chef Jack Attack joins any part of the show, man, because that guy is one heck of a dude. So look forward to some stuff. Chef Jack Attack, put something in the comment. Maybe did you cook something great for breakfast this morning? Because I know you make some phenomenal stuff. All right, man. So back to this. So you get the linebacker who's out there, and this is what I was going to say. I'm sorry for bouncing back and forth. Go back to the Super Bowl, the one that we lost, and I know it's a struggle for a lot of people. But a lot of that situation was based on personnel, right? When we threw the interception, a lot of what we chose to do, and then what New England chose to counter with, was the chess match that is your personnel, which is how you start things, right? As soon as a play ends, the first thing a coach is doing is they're tossing out their personnel. Like, what personnel do they want to run? Even with the timeout, it's what do you want to run? So for me as a coordinator, for every single year but one, so all my years as a head coach, I was an offensive coordinator. And then even when I was assistant coach before that, I was an offensive coordinator. As soon as the play ended, I immediately was calling out the formation I wanted. And then I would go to my play sheet because you only have about 7 seconds total to choose your play. 7 seconds. Now, everybody has an attorney to second guess it. But you send that personnel out there, and the defense is going to counterpunch with their personnel based on that. Well, when we see that they've got a tight end out there, and we see this personnel, I'm sure all week long, they said, okay, when they're in this personnel, we're going to put others in. And I'm not going to get into 21 personnel and 11 personnel and all that stuff. I'll educate on that on a different show. But basically, what you have is yellow is the routes. Yellow is for this play, I put yellow is pass routes. Purple is obviously who's getting the ball. The pass route is as basic as you get. It's a 1 yard lazy slant is what we call it. Or some people might even consider it an in because he just basically takes a one step and just lazily comes in here. Now you get a great rub over here on the side. And by rub, what I'm saying is he's teetering on offensive pass interference, but he does a nice job of getting here, pressing it, and then off he goes. Now, what you get here is you're going to get a wheel route. And the reason why I have the squiggly lines is this isn't motion. If it was motion has to be lateral, and I'd have it in a different color. But all he does, this dude should have been called for a little bit of pass interference because he's just rubbing him the entire time. Just driving him. He's trying to get him rubbed back so that he ends up dropping back, which allows this receiver to go here and run the wheel route. But this play is going up here from the get-go, and you'll see in a second why. And a lot of times I will try to always remember to show you the play, but this one I wanted to talk through it first beforehand because I think it was shown so much during the game. And this to me epitomizes what has been an issue and what I hope the Seahawks fix or have fixed this week. Because if they don't, we're going to be in a world of hurt. Now, as he runs this inside route, what you're going to see is, and all I want you to do is really focus up here. Don't worry about the swing route. Don't worry about this down here at the bottom. Just the top two receivers. Okay. Now, I'm going to freeze this for a second. Let me just go back just a little bit. Now, you got these three guys that are basically in a man-to-man situation. So Bobby, people are like, well, where's our middle linebacker? Well, you're going to see Bobby just jumps this running back. So we take away basically most of the stuff here. The issue comes back here with our safety. So while we had guys yelling at our linebacker, let's just see the play and how it develops and what happens. Okay, there's the catch. He goes all the way in for the touchdown. And then what do we see afterwards? We see safeties getting on each other and safeties yelling at our linebacker. But let's really look and see where the problem took place. First off, you get a great rub. Okay, you got to communicate that the nickel, which means you've brought in an extra defensive back, so you don't have a linebacker out here. They're playing with 3 wide receivers and a tight end, so basically 4 wide receivers set and a running back out of the backfield. So you play your Mike back versus a running back. So you got a nickel back here, you got a dime here. So you got basically you're playing with 6 defensive backs, 7 defensive backs, depending on how many guys you're rushing. So we're rushing 4. Mike backer's playing this, so there's 5. That leaves you with 6 left. So you're playing in your, basically playing your nickel package and not dime packages when you're floating 3 guys up there. But because this guy is such a threat right here, watch what we get up top. First off, you get a rub, and what you have to have your linebacker do, and it's tough, he's not a defensive back. He must go over the top of this if you don't have a switch called. Now, whether they work on switches or not, I don't know. I'm not out there. And usually you don't switch this. You're not going to switch a linebacker onto their, all-pro wide receiver. So this guy's going to stay there, but there's got to be some sort of a communication component here because you cannot have it doesn't matter if it's a linebacker or a DB. You cannot go underneath this. It doesn't matter who you are. Okay, only Deion Sanders and some of those dudes, Richard Sherman, who, by the way, just signed with Tampa Bay. Like, apparently you mad bro isn't so mad bro anymore because he just called up Richard Sherman, had him come there. So there you're already done. So you're already in a position where you're not gonna make the play, and there's no way you're gonna catch up with the angle because this guy's already at full speed, and you're just coming off of a rub. Here's where the real problem comes. Now you can see how we've got it covered here. man-to-man tight, man-to-man tight. The ball's already away, which is why Flowers has already jumped off. And I know people are jumping down Flowers' throat. I think when people see the whole game, it's not all Flowers. Okay, he definitely has his faults. But here's where I have the biggest rub on this final play. And I'm a huge fan of both our safeties. Like, I love them both, big time. But, man, when they make mistakes, the mistakes are huge. When they make the big plays, they're big. But when they make the mistakes are definitely huge. So let me see this right here. Okay, now, what you're going to get is, look at where our safety is. Okay, he's sitting right over here at the top. And in our defense, basically it's hard to call you wouldn't call Jamal Adams necessarily a strong safety, but for the sake of this play, because they have their running back to our defensive right, that's typically where you're just going to lay your strength. But the tight end is up here to the left. So for now, I'm just going to call this our free safety and this our strong safety just for the sake of this conversation. In some of our defenses, we'd actually call him the free safety and him the visitor. So we're just going to call him the free safety for the sake of this play. His role the entire time until that pass is released, he should just be staying right here. He's got halves. Okay, you're playing basically a 2 under. Half the field, two halves, and then man under, meaning man to man, man to man, man to man, man to man, man to man. So if you hear cover 2, that's everybody playing zone, but picking up men when they come into their zone, and then cover 2 man is the 2 safeties going back deep. But you split that field in half, and each guy covers his half. Well, Jamal does his job there. Okay, Diggs on the other side doesn't. Watch where he goes. That ball is just being thrown. He's already cheating to the left because he saw Thielen go this direction. So look where he's at. The ball is caught, and he is still in a squared off position, meaning not squared up, but squared off. Squared up is when your feet are parallel to the line of scrimmage. Squared off is when your feet are parallel to the sideline. Well, he's parallel to the wrong sideline, number one. He's not squared off. So it doesn't matter if he does a quick turn, which is a defensive back's way of quickly getting back into position. He does a reverse pivot turn, which is usually how DBs do it when a player's in front of him. Quick turns take place when a receiver's quickly going past him. But look at where we are position-wise right now. I mean, we are just it's just not a good spot to be in when you got this guy here to here to here to here, right? That triangle. Adams is squared up, moving forward, ready to make a play. Our other safety is going the wrong direction, getting his momentum, going to come late to the play. When the play happens to his side, and the pass was thrown way back here. So let's just watch it from this spot. Okay, here we go. So play comes back into the inside, just a quick hitter. Adams is there to he makes a nice play. Now, we get a lot of arm tackling, and I know sometimes when I see these plays, even though I've watched them 100 times before I come onto the show, there's still stuff that will keep coming up that I'll have to say. We do more arm tackling than any Seahawks team I've ever seen. And again, is that Pete Carroll? Is that Norton? I mean, Pete Carroll basically brought the rugby tackle to Seattle Seahawks, and now the whole entire NFL and the entire football universe does the rugby tackle. But originally it became the Seahawks tackle. They were the first team in 2013 to start doing that when everybody was doing, heads up tackle and all this other junk that was at the lower levels, which I couldn't stand. It used to be really go across the body. So even now you see a lot of NFL dudes, when a guy's running with the football, linebackers coming at him, they will come across their body and we used to teach strike the football with your eyes. So way to keep your head up so you don't get a neck injury is get low, squat, come out, and then go across the guy's body and wrap up, take the guy down. Well, then they wanted to eliminate head injuries. They started studying rugby and realizing, hey, those dudes are making tackles too without shoulder pads, without helmets. There's got to be a way to do this. And what rugby dudes do is they don't go so high. They go down at the thigh. So instead of going, strike the football with your eyes, it became eyes to the thighs. So that's why you see a lot of dudes going down at the thigh level to make plays, not trying to go down at the toe level, chop guys down. And they put their head behind on the backside. So instead of before where the head was crossing the chest, but going at an angle to make plays, now they're teaching eyes to the thighs, keeps your eyes up, keeps your head up, but your helmet goes to the backside, but you're wrapping, and because you're grabbing at the waist level and you're kind of whipping your back legs around, that's going to take guys down. And it's amazing how well it works. But you must bring the arms with you. so many times. I see this over and over and over again. And it's just, it shouldn't happen at the NFL level. It shouldn't happen at the college level. Really, it shouldn't happen at the high school level if you're working on tackling. But here's what you get. Okay. And again, it's not Adam's job to make this. I mean, it is his job to make the tackle, but it's not in his lane. I mean, it's not the space he's supposed to be in. He's got a wheel taking place over here. Fortunately, he sees the play and breaks on it, and then he goes and makes it. But look how he made his tackle. And by next show, I will have my zoom in capability. Sorry, I have a comment on there. I'll have my ability to zoom in on these. And actually, you know what? I can do something really quick here because I think this is important for anybody who's learning. A little slower way to do it, but I think I can show this a little bit here. All right, so now, making sure we got it. I think we got it. So now you can see, watch Adams come in, dangerous. Like that's just dangerous. So if you're a young person that watches this video, not live today, but if you watch it in a week or a month or years down the road, man, never, ever, ever. Like I don't want to see number one, I want to see Jamal Adams get hurt just as a person, right? I just don't want to see a person get hurt, period. But you just don't want your NFL player going like that to make the play when the guy's going full speed and his knee goes into the back of his head. I was stunned when I watched this play live. Two things I try to pick up on really quickly are offensive line blocking and how dudes tackle. Like right away, I try to really be cognizant of that just because I've just enjoyed watching that over the years and trying to see little things. All I was looking for was how quickly can I see Adams in the next frame? And then I did when guys were yelling at each other, but I was just glad to see him get up because I could tell right away at normal speed that his tackle was just boom, head to the back, legs whipped around, which is the legs whipping around you want, but you definitely don't want it like that. But look what else it did. Watch our linebacker. Just watch our linebacker's legs. Okay, boom, boom. Man, we're taking two dudes out there, but who's missing from the scene? The guy who's yelling the most, right? So, and again, man, I like him. So I'm not worried about him watching this or taking advice from me or anything like that. But if I'm going to coach, if I'm going to coach that guy up, and let me reset myself here real quick. If I'm coaching these guys up, what I'm telling them is, hey, man, we got to do our responsibility. We got to make sure we're doing it the right way. You got to make those things happen. And so when you don't, it just really, really messes things up when you're in your own space. I mean, this is the do your job thing, right? This is Bill Belichick and everybody else. Do your job. And there he gets the hit, and there's nobody to be found. Now, some would argue, hey, it was a touchdown or it wasn't a touchdown. And what I would say is, hey, you know what? We shouldn't have even been in this position where we're questioning it. And I know I said that it was a touchdown. It wasn't necessarily a touchdown on the play. But in terms of regardless of whether it's a touchdown or not, it doesn't matter where this play takes place on the field. This is a 24-yard, 20-plus yard play, right? You don't want running plays that are more than 5 yards, and you don't want pass plays that are more than 7 to 10 yards. Anything beyond that, teams should be able to move their way down the field offensively with just hitches and slants and out routes and running game that's 2, 3, and 4 yards at a pop. But that'd be really boring. That'd be 1920s football. So instead, teams run schemes and got to do all this crazy stuff. So you want to be able to let those guys run the underneath things. What we're having problems with is we're just all over the map on where guys are. There's a couple of plays that I'm not going to show you where Bobby Wagner looks like he's going to blitz, and instead of blitzing, he just kind of comes up to within about 2 yards of the line of scrimmage after the play snapped, and he just kind of jumps up and waves his hands. We're rushing 4 guys, so that's 5 out of the play, but our other 6 are way back there, kind of in this big, huge, it's not even an umbrella, it's just a big circle, and there's just so much space in the middle. So the flip side is I'm excited about what I think we're going to get out of this week. I think we're getting San Francisco at the right time. For some reason, I feel like we're going to have it. It's been interesting watching press conferences the last few days. While I don't watch other people do telestrating and stuff like that, I do like to watch the other things with regards to Russell Wilson coming on press conferences and Lockett and our defensive coordinators, just to hear what they're saying and things like that. And it's fascinating to me to just watch the same dynamic. Russ is always Mr. Positive and, hey, we just got to get better. And it's just the cliches and all those things, which is fine. That's Russ. But the guy I love listening to is Jamal Adams because he calls things the way they are. Very honest dude. Love what he says. Bobby Wagner's pretty quiet. But this week, the one that was really interesting to me, some of the quotes he says was Coach Norton. And coaches don't really read a lot of the stuff that's going on. I mean, a guy knows if he's on the bubble or not. All they got to do is look and go, hey, we gave him 1,000 yards pretty much last couple of weeks. He has a good idea. But when he's asked questions, and I appreciate that these guys have to stand in front of the media and answer those things. So it's not easy after a game, to say what went wrong or what happened when you know that everybody's calling for your job. But I also think that if you do that, you should give some honest answers, right? You should be able to dive a little bit deeper than just the basics. So when he's asked a question such as, what do you think is wrong with the defense and how do you think you need to fix it? And on two different occasions, his answer was, well, pretty simple. The other team scored more than us. That's Captain Obvious. And I respect Norton big time. I mean, he made one of the greatest plays in Super Bowl history back with Dallas when they played against Buffalo. So he's the real deal, in terms of a player. But being a great player doesn't always equate to being a great coach, and being a great position coach doesn't always equate to being a great defensive coordinator. Flip side, look at the Dallas Cowboys. And I'm the biggest anti-Dallas Cowboy fan there is. You could put all 32 teams on, and if I lose Dallas Cowboy fans, I'm sorry. But you can put all 32 teams up, and if I had to rank them in terms of just teams I enjoy, I would put the Dallas Cowboys at 32. Now, that's just organizationally. They had players through the years that I love? Absolutely. Do they have current players? Yeah, man. I love watching Dak Prescott. His story's phenomenal. Everything's gone through the last year. Love what they're doing. The reason I bring up Dallas is their defensive coordinator, right? Former Seattle Seahawks defensive coordinator. And all of a sudden now, amazing how last year Dallas was just struggling, having some issues. And now all of a sudden they're getting the three things I talked about the other night, the stuff that we are not getting, that we don't seem to be getting. And that's this right here, right? I talked about comprehension, personnel, and respect. Like the comprehension with the Dallas Cowboys defense, it's there. You could tell that their football IQ has grown tremendously. The personnel, they are getting guys in the right spot. They drafted the rookie linebacker. You could just tell that they've done the right stuff position-wise, and then you can tell the respect's there. Man, when they're talking to coach, when they come off the sideline, man, they're looking them right in the eye, or they're talking to them upstairs, and my coach, I'm talking about head coach, and they're doing other things. You can tell player to player the way they communicate, even when things are going wrong. You look at our team, and I'd say it's a little bit of the opposite. And that to me falls with your coordinator. Head coach can only control so much of that, but your coordinator is the guy who has to develop the comprehension of the schemes and the concepts. And he's the guy that has to take care of the personnel, getting guys in the right positions and getting the guys in the right spots. And then the respect, either he has to garner through players feeling like he knows what he's talking about, and most importantly, players feeling like he's put them in the right position. So when that linebacker is out there playing against a tight end and he gets beat, and then dudes are yelling at that linebacker, and things are happening on the sideline, and who knows how that all gets communicated. But man, it's not a matter of are we talented enough. To me, it's a matter of do we have the right guys coaching the right people in the right way. Not is he a good coach, but is he coaching them the right way? It's teaching. So let me check a couple comments before I check out of here. Appreciate you guys throwing it. Let's see here what we got. Yeah, Star Wars 1, 2, 3. You're right. It wasn't a touchdown. My bad on calling that. I think sometimes I see this stuff and I get frustrated, so I just kind of call them touchdowns because to me they feel like touchdowns. Let's see here. Life and Sports Talk with Jake. Sherman threw shade at the Hawks saying they didn't want him enough, and Brady Collins just showed they wanted him more. Yeah, you know what? I think that is trolling's a funny thing in the NFL and that type of stuff. I think first off, what you're seeing with Brady, I think is fantastic, right? You're seeing a guy who's basically, I think I'm trying to kind of be a little bit like him, not from a football standpoint, but he's quickly becoming the hippest dude out there, right? Like he used to be Mr. Quiet and, the guy that with a cheated, he didn't like, and now all of a sudden he's doing the golf stuff and he's on social media and he's doing funny commercials. He just got that commercial for the I'm not going to name the brand, but it's some sandwiches, but it looks like he's doing cologne, right? So he's just doing some funny stuff. And he's also winning, right? He's kicking butt. Well, I think when you get someone like a Richard Sherman, who you can just call up as Tom Brady and say, hey, man, looks like both your old teams don't really want you. Why don't you come this direction? You don't think Richard Sherman isn't going to eat that up, even if he can barely play? Just the message that sends to our two teams the message that Tom Brady's given to Richard Sherman, the message that Richard Sherman's going to give coming into that locker room as now a veteran guy in the NFL. I mean, talk about the rich getting richer, man. It is unbelievable. Donnie Pearson at Coach for Life. Hello, Coach Bill and all. Happy October. Hope everyone is staying strong this afternoon. Yeah, man. Happy October to you. I can't believe it's October. Definitely my favorite time of the year. My wife, who I call Sweets. It's Sweet's favorite time of the year. We love this kind of crisp feel in the air, Halloween spirit, everything else. There'll be some pretty cool football Halloween stuff I'll be putting out here pretty soon. Let's hear. Sorry for the delay. I was busy redoing my orchestral mock-up recreation of Tchaikovsky's 1812 Overture. Holy cow. Let me know if that's something I'm going to be able to see somewhere. You're going to be posting that? I was busy redoing. Man, sometimes you younger dudes make me feel like I just am not the smartest guy around. Like all I do is X's and O's and do telestrations, and you're busy redoing your orchestral mock-up recreation of Tchaikovsky's 1812 Overture. That said, Donnie Pearson, I hope you keep watching the show because you're gonna enhance the show with your knowledge, because if you're doing that, man, I'm excited to see what type of questions you bring my way. I'm going to prep myself. And I know Star Wars 1, 2, 3, not only is big time into Star Wars, I know you're a big fan of all Seahawks football stuff. I always enjoy the questions you ask when you're on. I know you've been on NordCam many, many times. Seattle leaves too much space at the cornerback. This isn't the personal space back in high school. Yeah, man, I agree. And even in high school, last night, De La Salle was playing, and they got beat up by a team. But De La Salle is the team that had the 151-game winning streak years ago. And then Bellevue High School, a local team, ended up breaking that streak. But, even watching that, I mean, guys, you don't teach guys to play 10 yards and 15 yards off. And I get it. NFL, they're playing against great wide receivers. But if you can't get in guys' face and if you can't break on things, because it's all angles. And the other thing is the situational part, which I've talked about, right? Cassfert, Cassfert. Call, alignment, stance, situation, formation, execute, run, tackle. That's your Cassfert. Well, we know the calls. We get in alignment. Stances are going to be okay. But what is the situation, right? You can recognize formations. We're trying to execute, and then you got to run and tackle. But that situational piece is crucial, which at the end of the game, which I know everybody saw for the most part, and this is speaking to what you're talking about, Star Wars 1, 2, 3. I can't remember the down and distance. It was like 3rd and 9 or 3rd and 8 or something like that, or 2nd and 9, 2nd and 8. And they just run a simple lazy out route, right? We used to call it a sticks route, where you just run 1 yard past the sticks or past the chain marker, and you just run an out route, and quarterback hits you on the outside. And man, it's like, how easy was that? We were playing easily 10 yards off, and that was just brutal to see. One last quick thing back to that play real quick that I wanted to tap into. Let me just get it right here, because I want to get all the educational components that I put out there for you. On this play, this is more kind of for us watching our offense, because I'm a huge Shane Waldron fan, and I think when we get this thing rolling, it's going to be great. But just like people used to say last year a lot, hey, trust in Russ. Well, let's make sure we start having Russ trust, right? It's not just trust in Russ, but Russ needs to trust, and we really need him to trust Waldron, right? We got to have him trusting on what the plays are. And I'm going to invite everybody to embrace the grace, as I like to say. Embrace the grace, meaning give Waldron some time. Now I'd say Norton is running to the end of his grace time, but with Shane Waldron, man, you got to give him some time. Embrace the grace with that guy. But I want you to watch how quickly Cousins had the greatest game of his career, probably. If you look back, I mean, it was definitely one of the top 3 based on the last few years. When I look back at just 3 years worth of stats for him, by far and away one of his best games. But he knew pre-snap where he's going because of the protection that he has, because of the guys rushing. He obviously can see there's a lot in the middle of the field. He can tell that this is definitely most likely cover 2 man. And he could tell that this linebacker is playing shade as if to say, hey, I'm taking away your inside, forcing you outside. The only thing is, if you're going to take away a guy's ability to go inside, you better line up at about 4 yards off of him or 2 yards off of him. So lining up 7 yards off and sitting at an angle as if you're saying, hey, I'm going to force you to go to the sideline or go to the outside. I'm taking away your slant. That doesn't do you any good. But as I hope you can see here, maybe someone can comment on it. created a line where I could also put a shadow underneath it so you can see the directness of the line, this is the pass basically. When this pass takes place, I just want you to watch Cousins' footwork and timing here. And again, in these pass plays, you want to get it off in about 1.5 seconds. Definitely not 2 seconds, but right about 1.5. Snap, throw, boom. Now, footwork is definitely not the setback, step, and throw, and we have moved away from that. High school coaches, youth coaches, yeah, you still got to work on that. But man, if you're coaching a quarterback at the high school level, I know guys at college level are doing it. High school level coaches that are coaching quarterbacks have got to start learning how to coach quarterbacks that can throw on the move, throwing backwards, hop throwing, everything you see Mahomes doing, everything you see Russell Wilson doing. New quarterbacks are coming up. The position of quarterback is evolving so quickly, quicker than any position out there. Tight end most underrated, but quarterback position evolving like no other position out there. Well, quarterbacks can now throw all the different type of passes. It used to be all types of passes meant 1, 3, 5-step drop and maybe a bootleg and a play action. Now it's stepping backwards, stepping sideways, all those other things. Well, as you can see here, and I will give you one last piece, even though I don't have the zoom the way I want it. Okay, what I want you to see is just right here. And actually, there we go. Just notice how his footwork, basically what you usually would want a guy to do is take that right step back, 1, 2, 3, and then step forward. But he can feel pressure coming in, and this may seem like a lot of space, but when you're down there, it is not much space at all. But watch how he sees it, recognizes it, and he throws it to the short receiver. Just throw it to the quick guy and let the guy get some yak. YAC, yak, yard after catch. You've all heard it many, many times. It's a watch at regular speed. Just watch quarterback, how quickly he gets the snap, sees it, gets back, and throw. Boom. Not wasting time. This is the advantage of a quarterback who can't scramble. And again, I'm not saying he's slow, but you don't say, Cousins is one of the first 5 guys that can scramble. When you have a guy that can scramble like Russ, he's going to get into this position, feel the pressure, and most likely he's going to scramble to his right, which is his normal tendency is to scramble to his right. I always say that I love it when he goes to his left. But if you just stick with it and throw the dang football really quick, you'll be amazed how well you do. And again, Russell is still one of the top 5 quarterbacks in the NFL. His numbers show it. The way he plays shows it. But we're not going to get to a Super Bowl if we take chances, if we don't stick with the plays. And I've got a dozen other plays that, unfortunately, because of the issues that took place this week, a dozen other plays I had ready to go, but didn't get the telestrating going for it, where you would see guys wide open, not just one guy, but 2 guys wide open really quickly. But then Russ would, get out of there real quick, and he would jump out instead of just waiting for that just split second longer and just making the quick throw. So again, here, really the throw is only a total of about 7 yards, but the result of the play is a good 20 to 23 yards. So that's what I'm going to end it on. I think with tomorrow's game, there's going to be some, people that are nervous. I always think it's cute or funny when people say that it's a must-win. And in the NFL, every game's a must-win. Teams are coming along when they shoot. Just the other night, most people wouldn't have wanted to watch Cincinnati versus Jacksonville, and all of a sudden Cincinnati's 3-1. They have 2 game-winning field goals by a rookie kicker. But you watch those 2 offenses play. I get Jacksonville's; they got a ways to go. But watching Burrow play quarterback for Cincinnati, the way he's running that team, the way he's quick hitting the passes, the efficiency, all that type of stuff. Like I watch these other teams, and I think, man, I love our quarterback. Wouldn't want to get rid of him. Wouldn't want to trade him. And and I love his personal quarterback coach, who I've worked with many, many times. But if there's just one area of the game that I just so wish that he would just stay in more. Not that he can't do it. He can make every pass. I just want him to stick with that quick hit throwing game. Throw it to DK on the quick slant. Throw it to our running back who's just gone on a hot route because guys are blitzing. There was 3 times that I have where our running back just quickly goes out into the flat. Instead of blocking or chipping someone, sometimes you'll get a running back that chips the defensive end, to make sure that defensive end doesn't get there before he goes. But he'll just go out into the flat, or he'll run what's called a Texas route. And I've had people many times say, well, there's no such thing as a Texas route. Oh, yeah, there is. The Texas route is when you come out of the backfield and you go like you're going 45-degree angle to the line of scrimmage, and then you make a hard 45-degree angle back in towards like where the middle linebacker would be, or the Mike linebacker. that's a hot receiver. Well, we don't see it, or we see it and we don't throw it because then we're waiting to hit other things. Man, let's be happy with that 3 to 5 yards. Eat some time up, right? That time of possession that I will always say is overrated, but it's when is your possession with the time? How are those possessions with the time? That's what's important. All right, last couple comments and we'll be out of here. Let's see here. Star Wars 1, 2, 3. Seattle leaves too much. Yeah, we got that one. On offense, it is execution issue. You teach people on execution, and if it doesn't cause this problem, you can coach. There you go. But you might not be able to coach Star Wars 1, 2, 3 if you're out there working on your Jedi forces, like my little buddy right here, right, Mr. Jedi himself. Star Wars 1, 2, 3. The New York Jets are better than anyone can think they are. Yeah, it might be. I think teams will come along. So just got to know it's hard to win a Super Bowl. But I think we'll win tomorrow, which is going to set up an unbelievable showdown with the Rams. But, there's been plenty of times where a team's not doing well, and then all of a sudden they win a couple, and next thing you know, everything's fine. Winning cures all. So 1-3 now, we win tomorrow. We go 2-3, we win again. I'm sorry, we go 1-2, then we go 2-2, then we get to the next one, and next thing you know, we'll be right back in there, right back in the battle. And I honestly think that where I thought it was going to take probably a 12-5 record to win the division, now I'm starting to think, man, even 11-6 could win this division, because I think that teams are going to battle and beat each other up, and who could stay healthy and all those type of things. So, hey, lots of fun stuff. Appreciate the time, appreciate the support. Next week I will definitely be here on Wednesday, but there will be some other shows that are coming up. And now that I've got everything settled, I will promise to not only do my best to be on time, but I will hold myself accountable just as I did my players. That if I didn't allow them to be late, I certainly can't be late to my own shows. So lots of fun stuff. Appreciate everybody being here. I want to make sure I covered everything, which I think I did. And man, Eminem and Dr. Dre doing the halftime Super Bowl show. That is pretty dang exciting in my book. Already looking forward to it. So good luck to the Seattle Seahawks tomorrow. Good luck to everybody's playing. Root them on hard. Don't be afraid to scream and cheer and yell. This is your coach for the 12s, Coach Marsh, coming at you. And I will see you on the next 12 for 12s.